Jake Reynolds sighed, running a hand through his messy brown hair as he stared at the untouched kibble in Rex's bowl. The golden retriever sat a few feet away, ears slightly flattened, his big brown eyes flicking between Jake and the food. "Come on, buddy," Jake coaxed, tapping the bowl. "You love this stuff. What's the deal?" Rex whined, backing up a step. This had been going on for 3 days. At first, Jake thought Rex was just being picky. Maybe he'd gotten spoiled by the extra table scraps during last week's barbecue. But now the dog was losing weight, his ribs just starting to show beneath his fur. Jake frowned. "All right, fine. Maybe you're sick of this flavor." He grabbed the bag of dog food and poured the kibble into a different bowl, a plastic one they rarely used. Rex's ears perked up. He hesitated, then trotted forward, sniffing cautiously. A second later, he was scarfing down the food like he'd been starved for weeks. Jake blinked. "Seriously? That's all it was? You just didn't like the but—" Then he froze. Because Rex wasn't just eating now, he was devouring the food, as if he'd been afraid to before, and the bowl he'd refused to touch. Jake picked it up, turning it over in his hands. It was the stainless steel one he'd bought at a garage sale last month. The seller, an elderly man with hollow eyes, had insisted it was special. Jake had thought nothing of it, until now. He ran his thumb along the inside of the bowl and felt something, an engraving, tiny, almost invisible, but there, a single word etched into the metal. "Don't." Chapter 2. The garage sale. Jake hadn't planned on stopping at the garage sale. It was just one of those things. Auditor on his way home from work, a flickering sign that read, "Everything must go." The house was old, its paint peeling, the lawn overgrown. The man running the sale was thin, his skin papery, his eyes sunken. He barely spoke as Jake browsed. Then Jake saw the bowl. "Nice," he muttered, picking it up. Sturdy stainless steel, perfect for Rex, who had a habit of chewing through plastic ones. The old man's head snapped up. "That's not for sale," Jake frowned. "It's on the table." A pause. Then the man's lips stretched into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Fine." $5. Jake handed over the cash. As he walked away, the old man called after him, voice rasping, "Just don't let anything lick it." Jake had laughed it off. Now, standing in his kitchen, staring at the word etched into the metal, he wasn't laughing. Chapter 3. The Investigation. Jake spent the next few hours researching. He searched for similar stories, dogs refusing to eat from certain bowls, urban legends about cursed objects. Nothing matched. Then, on a whim, he typed, "Stainless steel bowl engraving don't." A single result popped up, a Reddit thread from 6 years ago. Title: "My dog won't eat from this bowl. Found something weird inside." Jake's pulse spiked. As he clicked it, the post was deleted, but the comments weren't. One user had replied, "OP, if you're reading this, destroy that bowl. Don't let it touch skin, don't let anything consume from it. It's not a dog bowl, it's a vessel. And something's already in it." Jake's breath caught. Then, behind him, Rex let out a low, fearful growl. Jake turned. The stainless steel bowl was no longer on the counter. It was on the floor, and something was moving inside it. Chapter 4. The Thing in the Bowl. Jake's breath hitched as he stared at the bowl on the floor. It shouldn't have moved. He'd left it on the counter. Rex's growl deepened, his hackles rising as he backed away, teeth bared. The bowl twitched. Just a slight tremble, like something inside was shifting, but there was nothing in it, just the smooth, cold metal. Jake's fingers curled into fists. This isn't happening. Then, a sound. A wet, slithering noise, like something dragging itself across a slick surface. From inside the bowl, Jake's stomach lurched. He grabbed a kitchen towel, ready to throw it over the bowl, when a hand shot out. Small, blackened, its fingers too long, its nails curled into jagged claws. It gripped Therum of the bowl, pulling. Another hand followed. And then a face emerged, warped, stretched, its skin glistening like oil. Its mouth split into a grin too wide for its skull, revealing needle-thin teeth. It laughed, a high, gurgling sound that made Rex yelp and scramble behind Jake. Jake stumbled back, heart hammering. The creature, whatever it was, dragged itself further out of the bowl, its limbs unfolding, like a spider's. It shouldn't have been possible. The bowl was only a foot wide, but the thing kept coming, its body elongating, its joints bending in ways that made Jake's vision swim. It was inside the bowl this whole time, and Rex had known. That's why he wouldn't eat from it. The creature's head snapped toward Jake, its hollow eyes locking onto his. "Hungry," it hissed. Jake grabbed the nearest weapon, a cast-iron skillet, and swung. The creature screeched as the pan connected, its body crumpling like wet paper, but instead of falling, it melted, slithering back into the bowl with a wet plop. The kitchen fell silent. Rex whimpered. Jake stared at the bowl, his pulse roaring in his ears. It was just a bowl again, but now he knew. It wasn't empty, and whatever was inside it wanted out. Chapter 5. The old man's warning. Jake needed answers. He grabbed his phone, hands shaking as he dialed the only person who might know what the hell was happening, the old man from the garage sale. The call went straight to voicemail. Of course. Jake threw on his jacket, Rex at his heels. "We're going back," he muttered. The drive to the old house was tense. Rex panted in the passenger seat, his eyes darting nervously. When they arrived, the house looked even worse than before. The windows were boarded up. A condemned sign hung on the door. Jake's stomach dropped. He knocked anyway. No answer. He tried the handle. The door creaked open. Inside, the house was gutted. No furniture, no signs of life. Just dust and the stench of mildew. But in the center of the living room floor, sitting perfectly upright, was another bowl, identical to the one Jake had bought, and inside it, a note. Jake picked it up, his fingers brushing the cold metal. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. "It gets out when you're not looking. Don't let it touch you. Don't let it eat." Rex let out a sharp bark, a warning. Jake turned. The front door slammed shut behind them, and from the darkness of the hallway, something scratched against the floor. Something getting closer. Chapter 6. The thing in the dark. The scratching grew. Louder. Jake's breath came in short, panicked bursts as he backed away from the hallway, expressing against his legs. The air smelled like rotting meat and damp earth. Then a shadow moved. Not just darkness, but something within it. A shifting, creeping mass, slithering along the floorboards. Jake's fingers tightened around the note. "Don't let it touch you." He grabbed Rex's collar and bolted for the kitchen, slamming the door behind them. The room was filthy, the sink overflowing with rusted dishes. A single light bulb flickered overhead. Rex whined, pawing at the back door. Locked. The scratching reached the kitchen door. Then, silence. Jake's pulse pounded in his ears. Was it gone? Then, thud. Something heavy hit the door. Again. Thud. The wood splintered. Jake grabbed a knife from the counter, his hands slick with sweat. The door burst open, and there in the doorway stood the old man from the garage sale. Except it wasn't him anymore. His skin was gray, stretched too tight over his bones. His mouth hung open, unhinged like a snake's, strings of saliva dripping onto the floor. His eyes were black, completely black. "You took it," the thing rasped, its voice wet and gurgling. "You shouldn't have taken it." Jake raised the knife. "What the hell is that bowl?" The thing smiled.
Jake arrived that evening, concerned for the dog's safety. He found Max soaked to the bone, still sitting at Tommy's grave. "Come on, buddy, you've got to get inside," Jake pleaded, his voice heavy with desperation. But Max simply stared at the gravestone, his loyalty unwavering. Finally, in frustration, Jake knelt beside him and put his arms around the dog. "I get it, I really do. But you can't stay here like this. Let me help you." Max leaned into Jake, and for the first time he felt a flicker of trust. Maybe this man understood his pain. In a moment of vulnerability, Max allowed Jake to lead him away from the grave into the safety of the truck he had grown to recognize. Jake arrived that evening concerned for the dog's safety. He found Max soaked to the bone, still sitting at Tommy's grave. "Come on, buddy, you've got to get inside," Jake pleaded, his voice heavy with desperation. But Max simply stared at the gravestone, his loyalty unwavering. Finally, in frustration, Jake knelt beside him and put his arms around the dog. "I get it, I really do. But you can't stay here like this. Let me help you." Max leaned into Jake, and for the first time he felt a flicker of trust. Maybe this man understood his pain. In a moment of vulnerability, Max allowed Jake to lead him away from the grave into the safety of the truck he had grown to recognize. That night, with a storm raging outside, the two of them found comfort in each other's presence. Jake sat on the truck's bed while Max lay down beside him, his head resting on Jake's leg. "You know, I've been through a lot too," Jake admitted softly, stroking Max's fur. "But we can't keep living in the past. I lost my son, and it hurt like hell, but I realized I can't let that keep me from living." As the rain poured down, filling the air with a sense of renewal, Max responded to Jake's touch, a bond forming between two lost souls, anchored by love and loss. The night grew quieter, and as Jake whispered stories into the darkness, Max listened with an open heart. Days turned into weeks, and as summer gave way to autumn, Max finally began to open up. He would still sit at Tommy's grave, but now with a sense of acceptance rather than despair. Jake continued to visit every day, bringing treats and speaking kindly. There was laughter again, small moments of joy that felt foreign after the heaviness they had both carried for so long. One sunny afternoon, Jake decided it was time to introduce Max to the world outside the cemetery. He took the dog to a nearby park, the sun bursting through the clouds, casting rays of light upon the vibrant green grass. Max felt the warmth of the sun on his back, the scent of blooming flowers wafting through the air, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of hope. At first he was hesitant, standing off to the side and watching the kids play. But when Jake threw a frisbee, urging Max to chase it, something shifted. The dog's instincts kicked in and he bounded forward, a mixture of joy and hesitation as he returned to playing. As days passed, Max started to become more active, visiting the park with Jake, discovering a new kind of happiness while still cherishing the memory of Tommy. The bond between Max and Jake grew deeper as they explored life together, filled not only with loss, but with newfound purpose. One evening, while sitting beneath their favorite oak tree in the park, Jake turned to Max, who sat contentedly with his head resting on Jake's lap. "You know," Jake said, looking out into the horizon, "I think Tommy would want us to move forward. He wouldn't want us to be sad." Max looked up, as if understanding every word. The memory of Tommy still lingered, but now it existed alongside the blossoming friendship between Jake and Max. They both had a long way to go, but they had taken the first steps toward healing the wounds that life had inflicted upon them. The seasons changed, and as winter approached, the world around Max transformed. He would still visit Tommy's grave often, laying down beside it, but he felt comforted, having Jake by his side. Together they honored Tommy's life, not with sorrow, but with memories filled with laughter and love. One snowy day, Jake brought a special treat to the cemetery, a colorful bandana that had belonged to Tommy. He placed it near the gravestone, speaking softly. "This was his favorite. Think he would want you to have it?" Max nudged the bandana gently, as if recognizing the special connection, and his heart swelled with a mixture of grief and gratitude. Months passed, and both Max and Jake learned to navigate life's challenges together. Whenever the pain overwhelmed them, they found solace in one another's presence. In the quiet moments, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they would sit together, sharing their hopes and thoughts, each finding healing in the other's companionship. Finally, one day, as spring bloomed anew and flowers blossomed, Max lay beside Tommy's grave, feeling an overwhelming warmth. The flowers were vibrant, swaying gently in the breeze, and Max sensed that Tommy's spirit was finally at peace. In that moment, he understood that it was time to move forward, to live a life full of love, just as Tommy would have wanted. As they strolled through the park, Jake looked down at Max. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" With a bright, spring sun overhead, Max let out a joyful bark, eyes sparkling with renewed energy. Together, they ran through the grassy fields, a celebration of life, love, and memories that would never fade. In the end, Max had learned that love knows no boundaries. Even through loss, bonds exist that can help